Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Those of you that are here and those that are connecting online as well. So let's settle into our evening with our meditation to begin with. So establishing a comfortable sitting position, aligning our body with some degree of symmetry, balance, poise, helping to enable an inner mindful presence. Our eyes gently closed, helping to bring our awareness within, and having our initial deep, relaxing, letting go breath, breathing out any stress tension that might have been building in our body over the happening of the day, the happening of the week so far. Breathing out, relaxing, releasing, letting go of issues, worries, concerns, roles and responsibilities, giving our brain mind a break from the need to be caught up in thoughts about what has been, thoughts about what might be, and just tuning into the present moment, this place and point of existence, the present, enabling a calm, objective, receptive, attentive knowing. Here, now, knowing. And before bringing awareness to our breath, which is our reference point for the present and our object of meditation, mindfulness of breathing, just relaxing our awareness down into our body, feeling into our body with awareness, this platform for experience, body, coming to our senses, both literally and metaphorically. Feeling our body sitting here, feeling grounded, settled, centered, present. And noticing some contact sensations, the sense of touch, beginning with our feet, feeling the touch of our feet connecting with the floor. Mindfully noticing, sensing, feeling that contact sensation, feet connecting with the floor. Then bringing our awareness up to sense and feel the touch of our body connecting with the chair, cushion or meditation stool, feeling that particular contact sensation. Support of the chair, cushion or stool, maybe the warmth of our body against the chair, cushion or stool, just noticing. And bringing awareness up to our hands and fingers resting in our lap, feeling the contact sensation of hands and fingers. Maybe as a warmth, coolness, softness, moistness, sensation of our skin, of our hands, fingers. Maybe touching the fabric of our clothes, just noticing. And bringing awareness up to our face, another area of sensation, sensitivity. Noticing our face. Maybe feeling the air in the room connecting with our face. Then from the sense of touch, moving awareness to the sense of sight and seeing, as we see some degree of light coming in through the closed eyelids, perception of lightness, brightness, color, patterning, or just a blankness. Simply seeing that lightness, brightness, or blankness through the closed eyelids. And then from the sense of sight and seeing, moving our awareness to the sense of sounds and hearing. Noticing background sounds, auditory experience, hearing. A few sounds from in this room. A few sounds from outside the room, not thinking about the sound. Just hearing the different tone, pitch, volume, layers, levels of sound, all occurring on the background of silence. Simply hearing. And then from the sense of sounds and hearing, noticing the last two physical senses, sense of smell and taste. Noticing the smell of the incense, fragrance in the room, any aroma, fragrance, scent, and any taste that we can notice, any residue taste flavors in the mouth. Again, just noticing, pure and simple. And then the last sense being the mental sense, the sixth sense, the mental sense of thoughts, where all thoughts occur merely as a mental image that we see or a mental sound, voice that we hear. So even being able to be objective to thoughts, noticing a thought without needing to be involved with it or reacting to it. Thoughts is just another sensory experience. Developing this calm, objective, receptive, attentive knowing to the flowing fabric of experience in the present, pure and simple. Enabling this calm, neutral knowing. Helping the mind move from being caught up in mental comment, commentary, critique, concern, complaint. Just mindful knowing. Being, breathing, knowing, and particularly taking up the sense of touch with the touch of the breath at the nose, nostril area as the primary thing that we're focusing on. Feeling the natural inflow of the breath, feeling the natural outflow of the breath. Letting the body breathe itself naturally. Feeling each individual breath. Maybe also seeing that lightness, brightness through our closed eyelids. A few background sounds. Maybe the coming and going of a few thoughts. But fundamentally focusing on each individual breath. The mind settling into some inner calm, clarity, peace, and presence. Always returning back to the breath if the mind becomes distracted into thinking. Here, now, knowing. Please help yourself to some tea biscuits, and then we can have some reflections and discussion. One of the beauties of the internet is that we're able to connect with talks and teachings of great teachers, great masters, teachings that were given decades ago. We're able to listen to them and learn from them without having to go to particular monasteries or retreat centers, and particularly if these great teachers and masters aren't alive anymore. If there are recordings of their teachings, then it's a great opportunity to connect with these teachings and continue the possibility of learning and growing from their teachings. So the teachings live on, certainly in us, through us. I was listening recently to a talk, what's called a Dharma talk, so a teaching on truth, wisdom, from a very famous, well-known Buddhist meditation teacher, master. His name is Ajahn Buddhadasa. So Thai, from Thailand, Thai meditation master. And he's not alive anymore, died in the 1990s. Contemporary of Ajahn Chah, photograph there of Ajahn Chah. And probably more well known than Ajahn Chah. Um, he was a forest monk and had a forest monastery in southern Thailand. Most of the forest monks in Thailand are generally up in the northeast, but Ajahn Buddhadasa had one in the southern Thailand. And also he, different than a lot of forest monks, he did also write books, gave a lot of talks, teachings in Bangkok at various universities, and became very, very well known and quite popular, even because of his teachings were somewhat radical. He got people to think and to contemplate and not just take things at face value, stirred people up a bit, particularly in Thailand, where Thailand being a Buddhist country and where often people don't question Buddhist teachings, don't question Buddhist monks. So Ajahn Buddhadasa was really, in a way, like the Buddha, getting people to think on your own feet, work things out for yourself, test things to see if they're true or not. So the talk I listened to was called "Don't Study Buddhism," which is very Ajahn Buddha Dasa-ish in its title, but basically was saying that um, don't get caught up studying Buddhism. And Buddhism is a lot. It's cultural, it's political, it's socio-economic sort of aspects of Buddhism, history of Buddhism, Buddhist art. Um, but go to the direct teachings. So the Buddha didn't teach Buddhism. The Buddha taught the Dharma. Dharma is the word for truth, wisdom teachings, the way of things. And so Ajahn Buddhadasa said, don't study Buddhism, but study the Dharma, study the truth of things. Find out for yourself, learn for yourself, look for yourself. And certainly that corresponds not just to the people he was speaking to at that time, but to people in any time, in any place, to look at the way of things, look at the laws of nature, find out for yourself, develop your wisdom. And even to see what is the Buddha's teachings and what is commentary, what is someone else's opinion about things as well. The Buddha himself said that he teaches the Dharma, he teaches the way of things, and even said, if you see me, see my physical form, what you're seeing is an expression of the way of things, the nature of things, the Dharma, the natural law of things. If you see the natural law of things, you'll see me, one and the same thing. And in the context of this, the Buddha spoke about the three characteristics of existence. So the Dharma, the way of things, the natural law of things, expresses the three characteristics of existence. The Buddhist or Pali words, Pali being the ancient Indian language of early Buddhism, similar to Sanskrit. The Buddhist word for this is tilakkhana. T means three, and lakkhana means characteristics. So the three characteristics of things, of all things, of all conditioned phenomena, has so there's three elements to this. You probably heard this before or read about this before, but the three characteristics of all things in the Buddhist language are anicca, dukkha, the third one anatta. And they're on the chart here if you can see it. So anicca, dukkha, anatta. And so that anicca, impermanence, change, flux. All things are subject to change and flux. They don't last. All things arise, persist for a time, and then pass. Arise, persist, pass. Arise, persist, pass. That's sort of the nature of things, the way of things. The second characteristic is dukkha. So all things have the potential to be a source of dukkha. Dukkha is a word difficult to translate. It's often translated in different ways, depending upon the context, but often it's translated as suffering, stress, dissatisfaction, disappointment. It can include all of those things and more. And then the third characteristic, anatta. Atta is the word for self. Anatta means not self, not a self. So all things are not pertaining to a self, or the self is not anything in particular. The self is a changing, fluxing phenomena. It's a phenomena. It's a construct. So the self isn't anything that's you can sort of pinpoint. There is the self. There it is. There we found the self. It's in the brain at this particular point, or it's in the heart, or it's there's the self. But self as a process of the mind identifying something, identifying with something, identifying as something. Like it might be, there's pain in the body. It's my pain. I'm in pain. I am pain. Or sickness. I'm sick. There's happiness. I'm happy. Or I'm confused. Or I'm this age. Next year I'll be a different age. But all these things that the mind identifies with a sense of identity or self, it's an identification process. And all these things are changing in themselves. How long were we 25 for? Just 1 year. Then we were 26. And how long were we a resident of this place? And then we moved to that place, and etc. How long was I a blonde-haired guy with long hair? Not long. Things change. But the thing I wanted to focus on this evening is in these three characteristics of things, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and no permanent static entity that we call the self, apart from the idea of it. The middle factor, dukkha, stress or suffering. And there's further teachings or sayings that go along with these three sort of elements. So the first is sabbe sankhara anicca. All things are impermanent. So yes, we can see that's a fact. Even something that maybe lasts for a really long time, it might be changing in time, over time. It's like my stainless steel cup, which I've had for over 30 years, and still the same shape, and still no holes in it. But it's slightly different than what it was last year, probably a few more scratches, a few more sort of dull marks on it and so forth, and some coffee stains inside as well. So it's stainless steel, but it's still changing over time. And it wasn't always a cup, it was metal in the ground somewhere, which was mined and melted and so forth. And so even things that seem really permanent, they're still subject to change and changing. So we can see that as a fairly a truth, or even an ultimate truth. All things are subject to change. All things are in a state of flux and changing. The third characteristic, that all things are not a permanent self, or not the self, whether it's a thought, whether it's a mental state, whether it's a feeling state, whether it's a physical state, whether it's an action, an activity, it's ultimately not the self, not a self. And also it's changing as well, so it's not a permanent self as well. And that we can see that, yes, I can see that. That's a reality, that's a fact. That exists beyond me. It's a truth. But the second characteristic of all things that they are stress and suffering, that's to be questioned. That's to be questioned. And often people that practice meditation, practice Buddhism, study Buddhism, it's taken to be, well, that's a truth. Yes, all things are suffering, all things are dukkha, but not necessarily so. We need to sort of reflect, well, is this true actually? And on one level, generally, yes, it's said, yes, all things are stress and suffering. Um, but if we look deeper, there's more of a deeper, insightful understanding to occur here. Things are as they are. Yes, they're impermanent. Yes, they change, but they don't have to be stress and suffering. One of the things about the Buddhist teachings is that often people think, oh, Buddhism is very negative, it's very nihilistic, it's very pessimistic. Buddha said everything's suffering. And yeah, there's suffering for a while, but not all the time. Um, and then, yes, but everything changes. Okay, so it could be a source of suffering, yes. But even so, looking further, it's like, well, um, do things suffer? Are they dukkha? Are they suffering? Are they stressful? They're only stressful or a source of suffering for the individual, for the person. So the stainless steel cup isn't suffering, it just is. And if I want it to be different, then I would suffer. If if I lose it, I could suffer. If someone steals it, I could suffer. If it gets squashed, which wouldn't be easy, I could suffer. Or I might go, that's fine. I don't mind. No suffering. No suffering. So suffering is actually relative. All things are as they are. They're not, they don't have an inherent nature of suffering. They may there may be suffering individual if the individual is attached to them being a certain way. So, for example, the enlightened mind, the fully enlightened person, the enlightened mind doesn't suffer because they've realized that, yes, things change and that therefore there's less likelihood of attachment to things because if there's attachment or grasping and clinging, and then when things change, the thing doesn't suffer, but I'm likely to suffer. I'm disappointed, I'm upset, I'm regretful, I'm remorseful, I'm disappointed, I'm despairing, I'm grieving because I didn't want it to change or I wanted to change quicker, I want it to be otherwise. But that's again a subjective experience. So we can then say that it's only a relative truth that things are suffering. And even in that, it's not actually true because the thing itself doesn't suffer. This clock doesn't suffer. But uh, if if I'm attached to it and it gets broken, it then we could say we don't say it caused me suffering, but I caused myself suffering because I was holding on to it being a certain way. And this can be a great relief to realize that, yes, we don't have to suffer when things change. We don't have to get stressed and upset and overwhelmed and react and so forth. There can be the possibility of just noticing this is how it is. This is the way of things. Things are in their isness or in their asness. It is how it is. It is as it is. And if I cling and hold on, there's the potential for stress and suffering when that changes or when something happens to that. But if there is no clinging and grasping and attaching and holding, then we allow things to flow in their nature, which may be to change, but there's no suffering. We could even say that there is the suchness of things. Things are as they are. They that sense of isness or asness or suchness is how it is. Such is it so. And in Buddhism, there's even a word for this, which is tatata, translates as, which is suchness. Uh, Everything is as it is, suchness. And our mind can become more receptive and attentive to that rather than being caught in the wanting, not wanting, the clinging, condemning, the reacting, the resisting, and so forth. That's where the suffering is. The possibility of moving to a more of an awakened, aware approach to life, because we understand that all things are subject to change, things are conditioned, they will, they're caused to occur in a certain way, causes change, things change. That's the flow of things. By being aware of it, we're more likely to appreciate things, even enjoy things while they're lasting. And then they do change, but we're not holding on. Therefore, it's okay. A bit like the verse from William Blake. He who kisses a joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. But sorry, he who binds to himself a joy does the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. Just allowing things to flow, allowing things to fly, rather than binding things to us. And then even becoming them. I am this. But then the thing changes. Oh, who will I be now? What will I be now? And in a way, as a practice, it's like being able to be mindful of the state of mind that we're interfacing or engaging experience with. Is the mind a samsara mind? Samsara is that whole sort of cycle of becoming, clinging, craving, and so forth. Or are we having like a nirvana mind, which is unbecoming, just knowing, just aware, peaceful, present? And so even Ajahn Buddhadasa talks about this, that enlightenment doesn't have to be something which is at the end of your life, down the track when I get enlightened, but it's more like enlightenment in moments. So there's moments in our day when there's no greed, no anger, there's no ignorance, delusion, conceit, selfing. Last week we spoke about the three ills: greed, anger, ignorance, and the ways of working with those. But so there can be moments in our day when we're not sort of getting caught up, clinging, craving, wanting, or pushing, reacting, resisting, denying, anger, aversion, hatred, or delusion, personalizing, selfing stuff, getting caught up in conceit. There can be just awareness, knowing, and maybe even generosity, kindness, and wisdom, which is the opposite of greed, anger, ignorance. The three-strain virus, or the three ills: greed, anger, ignorance, and the opposite, the antivirus, generosity, kindness, wisdom. That sense of just neutral knowing. But the thing is, often we get caught up noticing more when the mind is distressed or disturbed, when it's clinging or craving, and not noticing where there's just a neutral knowing, just calm knowing awareness, peaceful presence. And generally when that's happening, there's no self happening. Self comes in, oh, I like that, I want that, I want to get more of that. How can I get more of that? What if I can't? Stress, fear, anxiety, whole sort of process of existing and existence and samsara happens in that. But if there's just knowing, the flowing, knowing, neutral knowing, awareness, peace, presence, ease, even joy, even bliss. So the peace and bliss of not being anyone in a moment, or it may be for a few moments, it might be for a few minutes. Psychologically, it's called being in flow or being in the zone. Not that we're in the zone, the flow is happening without sort of self-referencing. It's just, this is happening, as opposed to I'm doing this and I'm doing great and let's get a selfie and I'll put it on my Facebook page as well. It's just the happening. mind body happening in flow, which meditation is very much part of that possibility. In meditation, we don't have to be anybody in a role, in a responsibility with concerns and stress, just awareness of a breath, an in breath, an out breath, an in breath, an out breath. Not my breath, just our breath. Nobody's meditating, but the meditation's happening. So more moments of life like that can be noticed. Um, and in a way, neurologically, it's like the brain is becoming more strengthened to that approach, that modus operandi, that way of being, rather than always the being from a sense of self, being from sort of the self that then creates a sense of suffering. It's only the self that suffers when there's just calm awareness of what's happening, even if there's pain in the body. It's just a strong sensation. Situation happening that otherwise this is terrible, but how do you know what's happening? Well, there's just visual experience, auditory experience, maybe smell or taste or touch, a thought, but not personalized into creating an issue. So there's more flow, the possibility of that. And again, coming back to that fact that suffering is relative, suffering is subjective. All things are not suffering. The thing in itself is as it is what it is, such as it is, suchness. It's only if I want it to be other than how it is, I'm holding on to it. And that's where the self gets involved and creates the suffering experience. So think about that as a point of reflection and contemplation. Any questions or comments about that?
Yes, thank
Scott?
you. I found this one fairly challenging, and I think helpful. I, um, I've got it like, how can something be suffering but then not, you know, and um, um, kind of hearing it like, if you take something, like if there's an expectation that this thing's going to be satisfying, this thing's going to be the thing, then yes, it's going to be dukkha.
Yeah.
And then if you understand that it can't be, and there's that relinquishment, or then there's that understanding, oh, it is as it is,
and
maybe is less the suffering.
Even
I
less
guess.
pressure on yourself to
Yes.
create the happy moments, like, oh, tomorrow's going to be great, because of this and this and this. And then it doesn't happen like that. It's like, oh, tomorrow it happened. It was a bad day. How was your day? I was bad. Well, no, was it the day that was bad and that was horrible? No, well, it was my relationship to it. It was the suffering was in me, not was what was happening in the day. The day was just happening. And it was even perceived simply as our whole experience in a day is simply just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling, and some thinking. Even they in themselves don't need to be stress and suffering. It's only if we're reacting to a visual experience or an auditory experience or a smell, taste, touch, thought experience.
How would you like catch yourself to get into the practice of doing that just daily? Because you can think about doing it, and then when you're actually in the moment, it's hard to actually
Good question.
Yeah.
What can be really helpful is um, the unease of pain, or not just pain, but stress and suffering when one's feeling, I'm upset, I'm sort of tense. It's like, okay, that's pointing that we've got caught up with something. And all we need to do is let go of the expectation, the anticipation, the fear, the worry, the judgment, or whatever it might be. And then the situation is as it is, but there's a different relationship to it. So it's a bit like if a light is shining on something that is ugly or horrible or messy or whatever, is the light suffering? No, the light's just shining on and showing up what is. The light isn't suffering. It's having a relationship with what's there. It's shining and showing, but the light isn't suffering. So can we then be that mindful awareness that shines on, shows up what is, but without the judgment or the clinging or the reaction or the disappointment or the hope or the expectation? So coming back to that, just calm, neutral knowing. So if there's stress and suffering, again, it's not in the thing, it's in us, and it's because we're holding on to something, even holding on to pushing something away. I'm wanting that not to be there, or I'm wanting this to stay. I'm wanting this not to stay. I'm sort of wanting.
And as you practice that, do you find that it just comes naturally eventually?
For sure, yeah. It's like we're developing that the brain-mind muscle as a neural connection to be able to have more of that approach with things. But it's difficult with things that are really close to us that we're identified with, people, partners, children, family members, and so forth, and because there's a sense of investment and wanting it to be a certain way. But that's also where there's the most suffering. So if we're able to just come back to just neutral knowing, calm knowing, which maybe from that wisdom knowing allows then a sense of compassion, wisdom and compassion and compassion, not sort of attached compassion. I want to help you, I want to save you, I want to rescue you, I want to make your life different, but more of a caring and a caring concern that's coming from wisdom and not from an attached approach. And often when there is a letting go, there's sort of the space and then there's peace. And sometimes things are more likely to work out in a positive way when we're not sort of stressing and straining and struggling and reacting. More sort of in line with the way of things, the truth of things, or what's called the Dharma, the natural law of things. So in a way, it's a great relief to go, wow, that things in and of themselves aren't suffering, aren't stress. Things just are as they are. It's what I add on or bring or create through my personal reaction or wanting or not wanting to things that creates the suffering, not in that thing, but in here. So this is where we have the possibility of change. The more mindful we are, then there's the possibility of some choice and then change. Changing our modus operandi, our way of being, our interface. Even if it means that we can, yes, I can do this, I can plan this, I can sort things out, but without so much self-interest and then holding on to that, fearing that will it work out the right way and it did, relief, or it didn't, suffering.
Is it like the control freak who puts so much effort, gets what they want, but then the effort was like taking it out of it anyway?
Well, putting in the effort is so much suffering. It's like the stress. It's a bit like the story of person that plants a little seedling, little tree, and sort of grow, please grow, and make sure everything's right for you and nice for you, and controlling everything, and quick, and after a week or so, I'll just pull you up and see if your roots growing. Oh, put it in again. Can't wait. The thing's probably going to die. So do give that some reflection, some thought for yourself, that how the mind creates stress and suffering. It's relative, it's subjective, it's not an ultimate in itself. Things aren't ultimately stress and suffering. It's how we respond and react to things, which is freeing, that there is the possibility of just peace and presence with how things are. So have a good week. Thanks for coming out, and see you next time. Thank you.